What's going on, and welcome back. Again, we are today doing Burp Suite. So today I'm going to lay down the basics of Burp Suite, which is part of COMPTIA Pentest Plus pathway in TryHackMe. So today we're going to do the basics of Burp Suite. Okay, so let's get started. So basically the first thing we do when we launch Burp Suite, the first thing all the time is to configure it with the browser. So what do we do here? We start our browser first, and we integrate the proxy settings in the browser. Without this, Burp Suite won't work. You're not going to be able to intercept requests. You're going to be able to modify the data. You're not going to be able to do your testing. So we scroll all the way down. Configure manual, apply, okay, and that's it. So make sure that you click on manual settings, localhost, port 8080, and make sure to tick this, use this proxy server for all protocols, okay? If you want to intercept FTP traffic, SSL traffic, you want to tick this and make it on. So, okay, so here we finish with the browser and we start with Burp Suite. So let's first start with the sections and the features of Burp Suite. So basically here we have first the target. Here we add the target. Basically target is auto-added. So basically when you add your target, a sitemap will appear here on the left, and you will see all of the history of the requests that have been made to the target, the request and the response. Here also you can define the scope of the target. You can define more than one target, exclude targets. For this scenario, we're going to be dealing with one target only, so we're not going to need to use this in this scenario. Proxy. So here, the proxy is where we intercept requests. Okay, so everything we send in the browser, we can click on intercept is on, and everything we send, everything we hit in the browser, it will be sent here first to us to view if you want to modify in it, and then we forward it in this button. That's an overview. And here we go to the Intruder. The Intruder is a very powerful tool. Here you configure how you will place the payloads. For example, we cut the request here, and let's say, for example, we want to target the username and password. We want to do brute force. We can do brute force. We can do SQL injection, all kind of attacks. All you have to do is to specify the tags here, the payload positions, the type of attack. We're going to talk about this later. And here the payloads. We're going to load the list. For example, sometimes we load user list or password list, whatever. Repeater. Repeater is a tool. You can use this to repeat requests. So for example, you send a request to Google. The request you can take the request from the proxy, copy it to the Intruder here, and in the Intruder you can modify on the request and see how the web server will react in the response section. Okay. Now let's go to sequencer. Sequencer is used to analyze random strings in the request, like cookies, tokens. We're going to see that later. Decoder. Here, decoder, it's much like you want to decode something from base 64 to text to hex. You just paste the string here, decode or encode based on your scenario, and you select the target. For example, encode as HTML, hex, whatever. You get the idea. Comparer. Her comparer is used for analysis. If you want to analyze different responses, different requests between each other, you want to load them here. Extender. Extender is something like when you want to add more to your scan, like components, integrations. I know it's not clear for now, but we're going to talk about this later. Yes, that's it. This is the community edition. Okay. Right. So let's go now to TryHackMe and see the questions that need to be answered. So here we have, which tool in Burp Suite can we use to perform a diff? If you know, diff is a Linux tool. It's mentioned here on responses and other pieces of data. Of course, it is comparer. Okay. What tool could we use to analyze randomness in different pieces of data, such as password reset tokens. So if you remember, to analyze tokens, cookies, we use the, what was the tool? Sequencer. You're not required to memorize them in your mind, you're just required to understand them. Sequencer. All right, which tool can we use to set the scope of the project? It is in the target. While only available in the premium versions of Burp Suite, which tool can we use to automatically identify different vulnerabilities in the application what we are examining? It is a scanner, but it's only available in the premium edition. Encoding or decoding data can be particularly useful when examining URL parameters or protections on a form, which allows us to do just that. Well, the tool is the Decoder, which tool allows us to redirect our web traffic into Burp Suite for further examination. It is a repeater. Okay. No? Proxy? No. Simple in concept, but powerful in execution. Which tool allows us to reissue requests? Well, now it's a repeater. With forward modes, which tool in Burp Suite can we use for a variety of purposes, such as field fuzzing? Well, for fuzzing, brute forcing, payload fuzzing, we use Intruder. Last but certainly not least, which tool allows us to modify Burp Suite via the addition of extensions? Well, it is Extender. Okay, now we finished with this section. Now let's jump. This is dark mode. Let's see if we can enable dark mode. We go to Options, Display. Oh, here we can change the theme of Burp Suite, by the way. Change will take effect when Burp is restarted. Okay, let's restart this. Seems cool to me. Nope. Next, start. Okay, so what do we have else? The proxy. Now we're going to walk how to use the proxy section. Okay. We have already target now for this. This is dark mode. Okay, let's go to proxy here and enable. The intercept is on. Okay. Well, the proxy here is kind of mediator that stands between you and your target, the website you are requesting, whatever you are interacting with. It stands between you as a middleman between you and this target and allows you to modify the request you have just sent. Okay, it's just much like when you say a word, if you can just pause the time and modify the word while its way to the person you are speaking to. Just that's the purpose of the proxy here. Just intercepting. Okay. Let's see here what do we have to do. So by default, the BurpSuite proxy listens on only one interface. What is it? Use the format of IP ports. Well, it is 17001, which is the one we configured in the browser. In BurpSuite, navigate to the Intercept tab. Okay, we did that. Now the question is, return to the web browser and navigate to the web application hosted on the VM we deployed just a bit ago. Note that the page appears to be continuously loading. Change back to BurpSuite. We now have a request that is waiting in our Intercept tab. Take a look at the actions. Which shortcut allows us to forward the request to repeater? Well, let's do that. So basically here it's asking to go to your browser and load the page of the VM. Let's get the IP. So here the IP. Now we go to BurpSuite and examine. This is the request, and it's asking what is the shortcut used to switch to repeater. or to forward the request to repeater. But honestly, I don't know it. So let's see here, repeater, send to repeater, it's Control R. Let's type this here. Nope, hint. Substitute the plus for a dash. Oh, so here we put dash. That's the formula, submit. Okay. How about if we wanted to forward our request to Intruder? And also here it's asking for the shortcut. Let's pick the shortcut. It is Control L. So Control L. Control I. Okay. BurpSuite saves the history of requests sent through the proxy along with their varying details. This can be especially useful when we need to have proof of our actions throughout the pentest, or we want to modify and resend a request we sent a while back. What is the name of the first section wherein general web requests are saved? So here it is. Let's forward this first. We click forward. And here we see the HTTP history, right? This is the history of all the requests we have sent. Now, if you look at the browser, we can see it is the page of OWASP Juice job, which is OWASP, a vulnerable app to demonstrate the OWASP top 10. Let's answer the question. So basically here it is HTTP history. Okay. Define RFC 6455 as a low latency communication protocol that doesn't require HTTP encapsulation. What is the name of the second section of our saved history in BurpSuite? These are commonly used in collaborate applications which require real-time updates. Okay, that's a bit. Okay, let's see. So let's go back to BurpSuite and look for. Okay, this is the HTTP history. Low latency communication protocol that doesn't require HTTP encapsulation. What's the name of the second section? Oh, this one, WebSocket history. Let's try this. Okay, before we move on into exploring our target definition, let's take a look at some of the advanced customization we can utilize into Burp Proxy. Move over to the Options section of the Proxy tab and scroll down to Intercept client requests. Here we can apply further fine-grained rules to define which requests we would like to intercept. Perhaps the most useful out of the default rules is our only AND rule. What's its match type? Okay, let's see. So we call it intercept. and go to options. And here we scroll down, we see the Intercept client request. This is the section where we would like to choose which request we want to forward and to apply further rules. So here we add rules to the Intercept client request. So as you can see here, if we go back in Intercept, this is the Intercept section. In this section here, we apply rules, right, to define what request we would like to intercept. For example, the question is asking the AND rule. So the AND rule is here, okay, and its match type is URL. So basically, we have a couple of rules, and most of these rules use operators or AND, right? So basically, if you enable the AND operator, the match type will be URL. So if we take this answer, URL, okay. How about it is relationship? In this situation, enabling this match rule can be incredibly useful following target definition, as we can effectively leave intercept on permanently, okay, unless we need to navigate without intercept, as it won't disturb sites which are outside of our scope, something which is particularly nice if we need to Google something in the same browser. Well, this is extremely useful. Actually, it means that if you want to use the browser, right, okay, without being disturbed by the interceptor here, the intercept is on all the time. If you want to leave it on and use your browser for other sites without the request being intercept, all you have to do is to go to options and here enable this one. If you enable this one, we can effectively leave the intercept on, okay, and navigate these sites. But first, it's better to edit it. So edit, as you can see here, and the URL type, match relationship. Here we choose if it is in target scope or not, and the match condition. So if you click on OK, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is only URLs in the target scope here, okay? We have this URL, only this URL will be intercepted, okay? Let's see if this is the case or this is going to happen. Proxy, Intruder, Proxy, the intercept. I'm going to click on forward, okay? Forward. Okay. Now let's try to go to Google and let's see if our request will be intercepted. Oh. Import. Trust the certificate for identifying websites, everything. Okay. Let me restart the browser. Oh, browser. I missed the console. Okay. Google. So as you can see, we were able to navigate to Google without the request being intercepted. So now if we try with the target in scope, we have defined in the scope, it's going to be intercepted. No? Just go back, options, edit. Let's check the dashboard. Targets. So let's edit the scope. Okay, yes. Scope. So we have this one. Let's go back and again try to go. Okay, let's go here and see our request has been intercepted. But if we go now to another site, Kali Forums, it will go without being intercepted. Why? Since we have added the site here, the scope only this site will be intercepted. Based on what? Based on the rule we have defined in the options. Okay, let's see what's the question that needs to be answered. Okay, so what's the question here? Something which is particularly nice if we need to Google something in the browser. Okay. What is the AND operator's relationship in the intercept client requests? All right, let's see. Is in target scope. So let's write is in target scope. Okay. Now we are finished with the proxy section, and I hope it is clear how to configure the browser with the proxy, intercept the requests. If you are okay with that, you forward them. If you're not okay, we just modify on it here. We're gonna get into that, and how to use the options here to control what are the sites whose requests will be intercepted and what are the sites whose requests will not. Okay, that's about the proxy. Let's now jump to something else. So proxy target definition. So here we use the target. What are the targets that we define in our testing? So this is basically, we have demonstrated that. Let me click on forward or disable this. So if we go to targets here, we see everything we intercept in Burp Suite. Everything, okay? Everything that goes through Burp Suite into proxy settings will be shown on and displayed here. Now, if you want to add one of these to your target list, all you have to do is to just right-click and add to scope. In this case, since this already has been added to the scope, the option is remove from scope. Here, if I want to add this URL, I right-click, add to scope, and it will show here the targets. I can exclude here if I don't want to use the options. Let's say I want to disable this, right? And at the same time, I don't want my request to say google.com to be intercepted, right? What do we do here? We go to target, scope, and we exclude Google from here. We click on add the URL, https. Click on OK. And let's go to options and disable the rule. So proxy, options, disable. Let's test this. So if I go to, or let's enable the intercept. Intercept is on. Okay, first thing we try with our target. Let's forward all, forward. Okay. Where is my target? So the request to my target should be intercepted. So refresh, and this is fine. Now, fine. Okay, forward. Fine. All right. Okay. Now, let's try with Google or with Kali Linux forums. The request to this site needs also to be intercepted, right? I haven't added this URL to my target scope. Let me check on that. And indeed, it hasn't. It has been intercepted. All right. Let's try with Google now, with Google being added or added to the exclusion list. Let's try. Forward. So it didn't work. Let's check on our targets. So here we added Google. Oh, okay. So we exclude Google from the scope. So here we go back to options, and here we need to enable the rule again, but we say and matches. Okay, let's check on that. Intercept is on. Try, and again, let's go back. URL doesn't match, or oh, so we have only 3. So it is in target scope, but Google is not in the target scope. How come? You go to scope, it is excluded. How come it is intercepting the request? Let me edit on this, and let's put only the domain. Let's try this. You say like that. All right, proxy intercept on, reload. Oh, now it worked. As you can see, the request hasn't been intercepted. Now we try on this to make sure, and the request to the target has been intercepted. Okay, now everything is fine. Okay. Let's see the questions. So before leaving the proxy tab, switch intercept to disabled. We will still see the pages we navigate to in our history and the target tab. Just having intercept constantly stopping our request for this next bit will get old fast. Okay. Navigate to the target tab in Burp. In our last task, proxy, we browse to the website on our target machine. Find our target site in this list and right-click on it, add to scope. We have already done this, if you remember. Clicking add to scope will trigger a pop-up. This will stop Burp from sending out scope items to our sitemap. Okay. Select yes, fine. Browse around the rest of the application to build out our page structure in the target tab. Once we have visited most of the pages of the site, return to BurpSuite and expand the various levels of the application directory. What do we call this representation of the collective web application? Okay, so if you go back here and let's switch this off. Okay, so when you go to a website, this is our target, for example, and we navigate through the site. For example, we go to this page. It's not page. Let's go to About Us, Contact, Customer Feedback, Login, GitHub. No, GitHub not part of this. Let's go back. All right, so if you go back here, we see on the target sitemap, and this is our target, right? We click on the plus icon to expand the sub-items, and we see all of the pages, files we have navigated through. We see API, we see assets, REST, redirect, socket. We see everything, right? And this is called the sitemap, okay? So the sitemap of the site is the collective pages that compose the website. So if you want to answer the question here, we type sitemap. No? Hint? What's the first page called in target? Well, this one. API, let's do this. The first page, let's read the question one more time. Browse around the rest of the application to build out our page structure. In the target tab, once you have visited most of the pages of the site, return to BurpSuite and expand the various levels of the application directory. What do we call this representation of the collective application? What is a sitemap? This? Let's click a hint. What's the first page called in target? So I don't know. It is the sitemap. Why it's saying wrong? Let's do like that, right? Okay, it's the space. What's the term for browsing the application as a normal user prior to examining it further? What's the term for browsing the application as a normal user prior to examining it further? Hint, this will both referenced in the paragraph I have included at the start of this task. Oh, I remembered. It is happy browser, happy user, happy path. Sorry, happy path. Okay. One last thing before moving on. Within the target tab, you may have noticed a sub-tab for issue definitions. Right. The issue definitions found here are how Burp Suite defines issues within reporting. While getting started, these issue definitions can be particularly helpful for understanding and categorizing various findings we might have. Which poisoning issue arises when an application behind a cache process input that's not included in the cache key? Let's go back. So in the targets here, we see the issue definitions, right? In the issue definitions, we see all kinds. This listing contains the definitions of all issues that can be detected by a Burp browser. Every issue, right? So basically here it's asking what kind of cache poisoning, which poisoning issue arises when an application behind a cache process input that's not included in the cache key. Let's see here. Well, it is something has to do with web poisoning, web cache. I hope I'm gonna find this. It's like looking for a needle in the haystack. Oh, this one. This is the answer, I guess. So here, web caches identify resources using a few specific components of each HTTP request together, known as the cache key. Two requests with the same cache key are regarded by the cache as equivalent. Web cache poisoning vulnerabilities arise when an application behind a cache processes inputs that is not included in the cache key. I heard this for the first time. Attackers can exploit this by sending a crafted input to trigger harmful response that the cache will then save and serve to other users. Web cache poisoning. Okay, interesting. So let me try answering with this one. Web cache. My keyboard. Okay. Move on to putting it on repeater. So here we're going to discover the repeater and apply it on the application we have. So let's go to Proxy and we have the repeater. So to demonstrate the repeater, we go to Juice Chop, and here we click on Login. We're not going to intercept the request like we usually do. In order to use repeater, you don't need to use the intercept proxy. Okay, login, and here we try to log in with some invalid credentials like test@test.com. And login. So it's saying invalid email or password. Let's go to Burp Suite, go to Dashboard, Proxy, HTTP history, and locate the request here all the way down. Let's expand this. Login. So here is the login request. Right. So if we want to modify on this request, all we have to do is to send it to repeater. Right click on it and send to repeater. I'm gonna send this to Intruder as well. So you go to repeater and we see the request here. Now we can modify on this request. Okay, now in the scenario of TryHackMe, it's suggesting we replace the username and password with a single quote. So here we can modify on the login credentials as we like. Single quote and single quote. Okay, now what we're going to do here, we're going to highlight this and click on send On the right, we will see the response of the application. So let's see the response here. So here the response, 500 internal server error. The message is SQLite error, unrecognized token, stack, origin. Okay, so this seems to be a SQL error. In TryHackMe, it is asking, what is the error message we have just received? Let's try to answer. But before this, let's see here. What error is generated when login fails? Let's go back and go to browser and take this. Just to answer the question. All right. Now here, this is completed. Okay, here we need to put the message we have received. So the error message is, let's go back to Burp Suite and get this. It's a SQLite error. Okay, now that we have leveraged the repeater to gain proof of concept, okay, let me skip those. I'm going to explain that. Okay, let's go back now. Now the next thing we'll do here, we will go back, click on, let's go back to the main page, contact us, I guess, customer feedback. Here we will attempt to leave a 1-star review. So here here in the rating, we're only allowed to leave a star from 1 until 5. What if we want to leave 0, right? What if we are so I don't know, disgruntled about this service or about this website, and we want to leave, we're unsatisfied about the service, we just want to leave a 0-star review. Okay, so how do we do that? First, we go to Burp Suite, locate the request in the target proxy history, and see the rating, request, CAPTCHA, score. These are the login. All right. Okay, so this is the request. Rating, look for rating. We're going to need to look for a request where it has the rating string. No? Let's see here. Reload the page. Looking for contacts. I can't see contact here in the history. All right, no problem. Let's go to Proxy here. Intercept is on, and do the dirty stuff. Okay, so highlight this and send it to repeater, and then you can click off, go to repeater, and let's see what we need to modify in order to leave 0-star rating. So this is the request, this is the cookie, status, continue code, IO, let's send. Okay, so here is the comment, let's say bad service. What is 9 minus 6, 3 plus 8, 11? And let's intercept the request again. Submit. Okay, so here it is. This is the request. So basically here I'm gonna, instead of 4, I'm gonna type 0 and forward. And also intercept the response. forward, and this is the yeah, forward. Okay, let's go back. You successfully solved the challenge, 0 stars. So basically 0 star has been submitted. Let's see now what's the question. What field do we have to modify in order to submit a 0 star review? It was rating. Submit, submit. Okay. Moving on. Help, there is an intruder. So here we're going to talk about the intruder section and do some practice on it. Okay. So basically, intruder is used to brute force usernames, brute force login forms, SQL. So with this being said, let's now move on to intruder. In the intruder, we use intruder for fuzzing. We brute force login forms. We brute force for SQL injection. We try for cross-site scripting. So it is the most powerful section of Burp Suite, which makes it stands out, by the way. Okay, so basically here, intruder, we have these sections: target, positions, payloads, options. The target will be populated automatically, unless you want to tick the HTTPS, the positions. So here, before talking about the positions, let's talk about the attack modes or the type. We have 4: sniper, battering ram, pitchfork, cluster bomb. So the sniper, we use sniper basically if we want to for single payloads, for single positions. For example, if you have a word list to try against SQL injection or cross-site scripting, we can use sniper. Sniper uses only one payload list, not two, which makes it not ideal for brute forcing login forms. I would use sniper for testing for SQL injection, fuzzing for cross-site scripting. I identify the positions here, and then the sniper will try every possible or combination of payloads in the payload list against the positions, one by one in turn. Now we go to battering ram. The next one is battering ram. Now the difference between them actually, much like it doesn't in battering ram, it doesn't take the payload from the list here and try to in turn. It does take the payload from here, right, and the list, say one line, and try it on all of these positions, like this one and this one. Okay, so say for example we're trying single quote. In battering ram, it takes a single quote and tries it against email and password one at a time. This is an example. Okay, while in sniper, it first tries it on email, then it tries on password in turn. Now the third one is pitchfork. Pitchfork is very identical if you want to use it against login forms. You identify here, as you can see, here you have payload set. We can try 1, 2, 3, 4. So for this, we can try 2 payload sets. We define the first one, load, second one, and load. So what's going to do? We go back to positions. Pitchfork will take the username and password you have and try them simultaneously in the email and password. It's very ideal for brute force. Cluster bomb. Cluster bomb is same as pitchfork, but in the case of cluster bomb, the payload or the sequence of tries and errors or sequence of attempts will be much lengthier, and I don't recommend it if you are tried against problematic web applications. Say for example, I would go for pitchfork. Okay, let's see here the questions. So which attack type allows us to select multiple payload sets, one per positions, and iterate through them simultaneously? Well, I guess you know the answer. It's pitchfork. Pitchfork. Multiple payloads simultaneously. How about the attack type, which allows us to use one payload set in every single position we have selected simultaneously? Right? Single payload, right? And single position, but simultaneously it is battering ram. which attack type allows us to select multiple payload sets, one per positions, and iterate through all possible combinations, but not simultaneously. So it is cluster bump. Perhaps the most commonly used, which attack type allows us to cycle through our payload set, putting the next available payload in each position in turn. Well, it's a sniper. Here it's asking download the word list attached to this room. This is a shortened version of fuzz database SQLi platform detection list. Okay, let's download this. So let's take this. This is a word list for, fuzzing SQL for SQL injection. Okay, sudo we're going to use this word list, by the way, to fuzz against SQL injection. Let's go back. Right. Let's see what we need to do in TryHackMe. So here, we're going to use the sniper. Okay. So these are the steps, but we're going to replicate them against the target. So in this scenario here, we're going to attempt to SQL inject the login form in order to have admin access, or in order to log in successfully without username and password. So we're going to try the SQL injection. So we go to Burp Suite, and if you remember, we have sent the request before a while ago to the intruder. So we have the request here. Now, what do we have to do here? We have first to highlight the payloads. So since we are fuzzing for SQL injection, it's only enough to fuzz one field. So I'm going to clear. We don't want this field. I'm going to clear on that, right? We can only highlight this one. So between the double quotes, all you have to do is to highlight and click on add. It will add a payload position, okay? And for cookie consent status, we don't want these. So we're going to highlight and clear. We don't want them to be fuzzed. Okay, clear? Okay. Since we have, or once we have defined the payload positions, we will have to define what is the attack mode. So since we are doing SQL injection or fuzzing for SQL injection, we have to do that with one payload list, right? So for one payload list, we have to select between sniper and battering ram. Okay, now we have only one position, right? So which makes sniper mode ideal for this. One position, one payload list, in turn, that's what we want. Once we have done all of that, we go to payloads, and here we select load, go to the desktop, and we take the payload we have just downloaded. SQL fuzz, open. As you can see, the list of payloads has been populated, and we can see everything. Let's go down, and we're going to untick this one. URL encode these characters. if we URL encode the characters, they won't be recognized by the backend database here. So we're going to uncheck, and we're going to start this attack here. Make sure the proxy is off. It is off. Start the attack and wait for a response. So as you can see here, the response length is similar with these, but we got one different here, and we got one different here. Let's examine them. We can right-click here and examine in the browser, request in browser, in original session, copy the URL, and see what we got. And this is error message. Right. Let's go back and wait for this to finish. All right. So this one is unique actually, 1001. Let's see here. So if I take this one, I'd like to try it on my own. I don't want to, let's see here, login. Oh, so here we are logged in now. Log out, as you can see the button here. Okay, so the answer, I think we need to stop this attack. We can just stop this. Okay, all right. So successfully, we have done SQL injection and we have entered the admin panel. Let's see the answer. Let's try it here. Submit. Okay. Click on completed, completed, completed. Yep, yep. So this is the Intruder section, an example on how to use it for fuzzing SQL injection. Now the next one. Task 10, as it turns out, the machines are better at math than us. So what do we do here? Let's see. Why not ask commonly used in practice environment sequencer? I'm going to use the sequencer now for enumerating the session cookies, CSRF tokens, these kind of stuff. Let's do that. So we find one. So here is a response, right, that has set a cookie for us, set cookie, right? This is a response which is ideal for sequencer, for analyzing with sequencer. Right click, send to sequencer, and go to sequencer here. And now we click on slide live capture. Where is it? Okay. So we need to hit a minimum 10,000 requests, right? In order for the analysis to produce a reliable data set. Okay, this is going to take some time, so we're not going to wait for that. You can run it on your own and find the answers. So for parse through the results, what is the effective estimated entropy measured in? Of course, it is measured in bits. And here the question, in order to find the usable bits of entropy, we often have to make some adjustments to have a normalized dataset. What item is converted in this process? The item was token. You're going to find it once you finish the live capture. You can complete it. That's the use of sequencer. Okay. No, something else. Right, we have these. Okay, a bit long task, actually, a long walkthrough. Decoder and comparer. Let's talk about decoder and comparer and use them in a quickly. I'm going to stop this. Yes. And now we go to target. our target. All right. So basically here, the decoder. Here it's taking a look. Now the questions. What character does the %20 in the request? We copy it into the decoder. What? We copy it into decoder, decode as. Well, without using the decoder, as you know, this represents the space in the URL encode. So you can write this. Okay, completed. Now, similar to CyberChef, Decoder also has a magic mode where it will automatically attempt to decode the inputs it is provided. What is this mode called? Let me tell you guys. So if you go back to our targets here, and let's go back to TryHackMe here. Okay, so the modes, if you go to Decoder, let's take some request here. Let's take, I don't know. All right, let's go to Decoder here. So for example, if we take some, let's take something here, try to decode or encode. How about this one? Decoder. Okay, so this is the input text, right? So we can decode this. This one is text, right? So what do we do here? We say, for example, decode as base64 text. Nope. Wait. I think I'm confusing stuff here. Okay. So this one, the base64 representation of it is this one. We can also decode this with, for example, decode as or encode as base64. This is the right representation of this URL in base64 representation. Now, what's the mode? The mode is smart decode. Smart decode automatically decodes or encodes. You can select this, and for example, base64 encode as base64. Okay, as base64. Fine, automatically. Okay, let's go back answering the question. So it is smart decode. Okay, what can we load into the comparer to see differences in what various user roles can access? This is very useful to check for access control issues. What are the sitemaps that we can send to comparer? Comparer can perform a def against two different metrics. Which one allows us to examine the data loaded in as is rather than breaking it down into bytes? Okay, let's see that. So we go to target, and here we send this to, let's see, this request, send it to comparer, and take this, send it to comparer. Okay, so we have two here in comparer, right? We have 1 and 2. So the words here, right, allows us to do the comparison. We click on words, and this is the result, the comparison results, the differences, right? The differences lie in the URL, in the headers, and in the cookie, I guess. Yep. So the words here, I guess. Let's go back and check words. Okay, that's it for comparer and decoder. Easy. And installing some mods. This is for installing extensions. Okay, we're not going to talk about this, but wait, there is more. Let's take a quick look into the features that BurpSuite Professional offers. BurpSuite Scanner and Collaborator. These are for premium. Extra credits. Okay, that's it for the use of BurpSuite. Of course, if you are subscribed to TryHackMe, we can carry on and continue doing the last 3 tasks, adding extensions. And if you are a premium user, I'm not a premium user of BurpSuite, and do the collaboration here, and that's it. Okay, so that's it for now. I hope this introductory tutorial to BurpSuite was beneficial, and see you in the next video.